So what's the next thing? What's going to happen?
More money will be printed and shoveled over to these people who insure members who give their money for this kind of insurance every month, which is, of course, woefully inadequate. And they'll end up probably paying out maybe $500 billion, maybe $1 trillion. But these figures don't mean anything anymore. I mean, the Treasury is secretly printing Treasury notes and bills and bonds, which they're giving to the Federal Reserve, which in turn is issuing them money for those bonds. And the Fed creates that money out of thin air. And then the Fed takes those bonds and either sells them into the market or they lend them. And that's all monetization. And that's all very inflationary. And that will go on for a time over the next couple of years. And then all of a sudden, the illuminists will say, well, it's time, we got our big war going, everything's in chaos. Let's pull the plug on all the currencies, all the markets, and so on. And that's the way it's going to roll out. And, you know, for you, those of you who are listening, who don't believe that, in the last 20 years, we've been right about 95% of the time. In the last 10 years, about 98% of the time. Now, I'm not proud of that because all the things that I predicted have been awful, terrible. But that's just the way it is. We only deal with reality and truth here. And that's where we're headed. And there's nothing going to stop it. And the question is, will those behind the scenes continue to be able to control their mechanisms of power and make things happen the way they want, or will they not? And I don't believe that they're going to be able to control this. And just like in Venice in 1348 and in Europe during the early 1600s under the Hanseatic League, when they caused similar massive destruction financially and economically like they are today, and the wars to go along with it. They were lucky they were just exiled. This time they're not going to be exiled. A different fate awaits them.
Well, what was the time when Florence got into the real trouble because of their monetary policies, the Medicis?
1348.
Was that Florence?
It was also the year of the great bubonic plague.
All right, fine. What about Venice? When did Venice get into trouble?
That year, 1348.
Oh, the whole thing. Okay.
It was called the Lombard system.
All right. And
what happened after that is they exiled all the malefactors, and the only place in Europe that would take them is what is now Wales.
Well, that's all. We'll be back here in just a moment.
And Holland.
Well, this is Dr. Stan, and Bob was just talking about when they tried this, something very similar to what we're doing today in Europe, and it was known as the Lombard system. And what was the date when it collapsed? 13, you say?
1348.
1348, and was that then the year of the Great Plague as well?
Same year. 50% of the people in Europe died.
All right, fine. But there's the financial system that they'd set up, a paper system, a phony paper system exactly as we have today. And there's nothing new. I mean, certainly this is what happened to the Weimar Republic. This is what's going on in Zimbabwe today, where they have an inflation rate. The last thing I heard was it was 186 trillion percent. Now that's not trillion, that's not quadrillion, that's not septillion, that's 6 trillion. That's, you know, I can't even imagine how many O's that is there, but, you know, they finally decided to go back and just start in with a new currency. And anybody who had the old currency, it's just all destroyed. It's worth exactly, you know, what fiat money currency is really worth. Absolutely nothing.
And that includes every currency in the world today.
And people really can't understand that. They cannot believe it. Here in America, we've been protected. At least over in Germany, they remember the Weimar Republic. Certainly in Russia, they remember what happened in the early 1990s. In South America, they've seen it time and again. And certainly well, the people in Africa can see what's happening to Zimbabwe, but we live here in almost like a bubble, and we think everything's going to be all right, that Obama's going to solve the problem. In fact, a recent survey asking who do you think the most of? Obama, Jesus Christ, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, and of course who was at the top, even above Jesus Christ, was Barack Obama. Most popular president we've ever had, at least at this time. But of course, he's promised he's going to get things moving, and he's going to get them moving all right. They're going to be moving further and further down, and more people are going to lose their homes and lose their businesses, and may heaven help us. We'll go right ahead, Bob.
I've seen several opinion polls, and they range from a plus 54 to a plus 66. So I would think it would be fair to assume that Mr. Obama's rating is around 60%, which is lower than George Bush and Bill Clinton at that stage. And I have projected that by the end of October that his rating will be 40. And goodness knows what it's going to be next year, because everything is coming unglued, and no matter how good he would be, there's nothing he can do about what these people are deliberately doing. And so all he is a figurehead. He's a PR guy that they dance around and make look good. They get good speech writing, and all of the important things are going on behind the scenes, and those are the manipulation of world markets, the preparations for Third World War, preparations for martial law in America, and so on and so forth. Everything that's been done over the last 20 years, but more nearly the last 10 years, in the United States has been negative for the American people, and one of the worst things has been free trade, globalization, offshoring, and outsourcing. And you don't hear much about it anymore, but day by day, thousands and thousands of jobs are still leaving our country. And nothing's being done about it.
Well, Mr. Obama says, when we get through with this, we're going to be stronger than ever. And how can he say that? He knows that the plan of the people who really run things behind the scenes is to weaken America, to send our jobs, to send our factories overseas. Why would he want to say that, we're going to end up stronger than ever, when he knows that isn't true, that the people who really run things behind the scene are globalists, and they want to redistribute the wealth and the manufacturing of the United States, because why should Americans have so much when so many people in the world have so little? That's their idea. Of course, they want to distribute our wealth, not their wealth.
Well, Mr. Obama is a Marxist, and America's going to find that out. It'll be clothed in socialism, but he's a Marxist. And, these people who are in power, or the front pieces like he is, like Reagan was, and like Bush, and they just moved around like men on a chess table, and they really don't have much to say about anything. They're told what to say. But the ism doesn't make any difference. Who cares if you have a government that's totalitarian, whether it's fascism or communism? They're both bad.
Amen to that. Well, it's all about centralizing all power in Washington, D.C., and having them monitor and control every aspect of our lives. And believe me, it's coming, and coming very rapidly. Well, this is Dr. Stan back here at Radio Liberty, and of course our guest is Bob Chapman from the International Forecaster. And Bob, it seems that more and more companies, every time I pick up the paper, another major corporation has laid off 5,000 people or 10,000 people. I mean, the whole economy is collapsing, and so many of our heretofore very good companies are having real problems. I mean, companies like Sears is having real problems, and people just are not buying anymore. Certainly, Circuit City is just closing up in our community, but of course, we're seeing many of the major and the best firms we have getting into trouble at this time, and we haven't even begun to get close to the end, have we?